Personally, I actually own a health clinic as well. And so this has been a very, very dear topic to my heart as well. And the fact of I don't want someone else dictating to me what I can do with my people. I want to hear their heart and I want to be able to do what they are wanting. And for me, I actually found ProAdvocate group 10 years ago now. When I was so I wear many different hats. So a part of health and healing, I believe, is very strongly connected to food. I think we would all agree on that here. And I actually operate a buying club in which I help people find food that is whole. We do raw dairy, we do meats that are butchered on farm, all of these different things. And I started this because my family had a lot of really bad health issues. And I got tired of having to struggle to find good food for my family to heal our bodies. And so we started this. I was actually 15 when I started the buying club and started operating it and trying to help people find food to heal their bodies. And I got in trouble. Which is actually how I started with Pro Advocate Group, because the state didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that we were giving people food that was healing their bodies. So when I got in trouble, I started calling everyone because I was like, I don't know what to do here. How? I didn't realize you could. And I was a little 15-year-old that thought I was just out to help the world, right? And so someone along my journey said, call Pro Advocate Group. They'll help you. So I did. And sure enough, I mean, I was in deep with the state. They were very, very upset. And Pro Advocate Group came alongside. At the time, it was Carl, which is Carla's dad. He came alongside and he helped me. He lifted me up and he got me completely out of trouble. I never had.
First, a quick word from our sponsor.
Did you know that one-size-fits-all supplements are a thing of the past? Today, you can take supplements that are built for your genetic needs. SNP Nutrigenomics makes taking personalized supplements so easy. You'll receive your at-home DNA test kit just days after placing your order, and it will have everything you need to test your DNA from the comfort of your home. After you swab the inside of each cheek, you'll ship the swabs to the HIPAA-compliant lab in Texas using the prepaid envelope. There, the lab will analyze your DNA using state-of-the-art technology and determine for you your unique nutritional formula that provides you with the exact nutrients your body needs. Based on your genetic blueprint, they will take a close look to determine genetic variants you have and exactly which nutrients can help you optimize your genetics. You'll get a customized supplement made to order just for you, and it even has your name on it. It will be shipped to your door on whatever schedule you choose, every 30, 45, or 60 days. It's a one-of-a-kind, all-in-one supplement made just for you.
Welcome, everyone. It is Wednesday, time for Health, Biz, and Politics. And interesting topic tonight. But before we get to that, if you're new to the show, to the channel, let me share our website with you, assuming it's here. There it is. So you know where to find us. You know who the speakers are. We've platformed some great people over the last 6 or 7 years now. It's really like going to school. I mean, everyone's having lunch or working or whatever it is, but really good stuff. We recommend it. A lot of other people do as well. So our website is your-mp.com. It stands for Your Marketplace.com. And go over to your Media Hub tab, and you will see our 2 shows. By the way, we have a good marketplace. We have good solutions for health and other health and wealth and freedom up here. So feel free to look around. And you'll see our Wednesday show today and Thursday. We do invite you or recommend you subscribe because, in fact, to both, because sometimes there's overlap between the both shows and topics. And then you can see the shows, who our speakers are, what the topics are, and decide if you want to join us. And if you don't, anyway, you can look down here at the bottom, see our platforms, BitChute, Rumble, Brighteon, etc., for each show, and then just go there the next week or whenever you have time and check out the show. And also, if you sign up, you will get a link to the show that was pre-recorded in the next email. So that makes it easy too. And with that, let me stop the share and turn it over to Charlie to introduce our topic and speaker.
Thank you, Jim. And sharing my screen, here is the events link for today. You can I'll put that in chat so you can click it and read it if you haven't already. In the opening paragraphs, I linked to past presentations on private membership associations because especially since the pandemic and the mistreatment of quality doctors who actually know about health, they have suffered from the government for doing their job of following the Hippocratic Oath and trying to heal us, which is really bad for pharma profits. Carla Dahlstrom presented this issue, and she's with ProAdvocate Group a few years ago. And there's a recording for that. You can see it was 3 years ago. And then Dan Knopfsinger, who works with ProAdvocate Group, presented how he uses PMAs for his alternative treatments, which will only be increasing in popularity as people educate themselves on what actually works to heal based on root cause analysis, that kind of thing. I think we all are experiencing cancer more than ever since the clot shot mandate and all the other environmental toxins from the EMFs, the water, the air. It's a toxic soup, as Kennedy likes to accurately portray. But when you try to actually heal, you get in trouble with the profiteers who don't like you. So the PMA can be quite useful to protect yourself from unwelcome scrutiny. Mark Aubrey presented then on his integrated network. We're all interested, especially people like me who are in the health insurance business, of trying to create networks of doctors who are integrated and therefore open-minded to what actually works. There's not much organization in that area, so we're always trying to platform people who are trying to bring organization to the area to help patients find good doctors. So good for Mr. Aubrey on that effort. Dan Wheeler is a banker, and out in California, he started at PMA. So these are just examples of past PMA presentations. I'll put the ProAdvocate website in the chat. And I met Morgan Phelps at the Rogue Food Conference hosted by family farm hero Joel Salatin, who interviewed me recently about what we're doing, trying to platform leaders in health integration. And Morgan and a few other PMA vendors were up there arguing on the stage on how best to protect the maverick healers who actually are doing their job of healing us, and the trouble you get with the government when you threaten profits of pharma. So Morgan was really impressive on the stage, and I'm sure she'll be here as well. So Morgan, tell us why this is such a hot topic these days, and take it away.
Absolutely. So first off, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be on here to share with you guys and to connect. This is my heart. This is why I do what I do, is to be able to bring these issues to the forefront and allowing people to see, there is another way, because I feel like so many times natural healers are boxed into a corner. They think there's only one way for them to be able to proceed forward, and it really limitates them on the way that they can treat their clientele, their patients, their members, and being able to do what is best for the patient. They have a dictation to them instead of being able to have that conversation freely. Personally, I actually own a health clinic as well. And so this has been a very, very dear topic to my heart as well. And the fact of I don't want someone else dictating to me what I can do with my people. I want to hear their heart, and I want to be able to do what they are wanting. And for me, I actually found ProAdvocate Group 10 years ago now, when I was, so I wear many different hats. So a part of health and healing, I believe, is very strongly connected to food. I think we would all agree on that here. And I actually operate a buying club in which I help people find food that is whole. You know, we do raw dairy, we do meats that are butchered on farm, you know, all of these different things. And I started this because my family had a lot of really bad health issues. And I got tired of having to struggle to find good food for my family to heal our bodies. And so we started this. I was actually 15 when I started the buying club and started operating it and trying to help people find food to heal their bodies. And I got in trouble. I got in trouble, which is actually how I started with ProAdvocate Group, because the state didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that we were giving people food that was healing their bodies, which I was a naive little 15-year-old. I did not realize that would get you in trouble to help people to obtain these good things. And so I strongly believe in networking. I am a big advocate when it comes to community. And so a part of starting my business, the buying club, was I started going around the country and I stayed at different farms, different buying clubs that I felt were doing a great job in helping people heal. And I created this network. I created this community that when I had something I wasn't sure how to handle, I would call them. So when I got in trouble, I started calling everyone because I was like, I don't know what to do here. How I didn't realize you could. And I was a little 15-year-old that thought I was just out to help the world, right? And so someone along my journey said, call ProAdvocate Group. They'll help you. So I did. Um, and sure enough, I mean, I was in deep with the state. They were very, very upset. And ProAdvocate Group came alongside. At the time, it was Carl, which is Carla's dad. He came alongside and he helped me. He lifted me up and he got me completely out of trouble. I never had to pay a dime in fines with the state. And they were coming in. They actually, you know, we like to talk about our rights, right? We like to think that our homes are sacred. But they actually went to a member's home and gave them this big story about how the meat that we had given them was adulterated. And came in their house, took the meat, scared the family half to pieces. It was this big ordeal, and this was one of the issues that we dealt with was how was that adulterated? You know, my dad always taught me, I'm homeschooled. So my dad always taught me that he who defines the word wins the war, right? So if we allow them to define our world, our words, little by little without even realizing it, we're going to lose all of our freedoms. And so in this particular instance, which ProAdvocate Group got me completely out of trouble, but the word definition issue here was they were saying our products were adulterated. When we asked about that, the reasoning behind their classification as adulterated was because I didn't have their stamp of approval. There was nothing wrong. I asked, did you test it? Did anything? No, we don't have to, is what they told me. They said, you didn't do it in one of our state facilities, so therefore it's adulterated. It's automatically going to hurt you, which is terrifying. You know, it's terrifying that they think that they have so much control that they can even control what goes into your home, you know, and saying if it doesn't have our stamp of approval, you know, you can't eat it in your own home. So that really started me off on this journey of realizing, you know, not only are we dealing with a food crisis, we're also dealing with a freedom crisis. And that freedom crisis leads into the issue of a health crisis. Because on that same front, it's no longer you go to your small town country doctor and talk to them about what care you want. It's the state putting mandates on that doctor saying, you can only offer these services. You can only give these patients this. If you don't give them this shot, there's a chance you could lose your license. That's not right. That's not allowing people to have the freedom to choose what they want, what is best for them, and what's best for their children. You know, it's not right that a mother has to be scared going into the doctor's office and saying, we're doing a modified vaccine plan. No, we should be able to freely say, I don't feel that is what is best for my child. I don't feel that is what is best for my body. But instead, we have to be careful and say, oh, is this going to lead to CPS coming in my home? You know, are they going to say I'm not treating my children right because I won't give them the jab? Like, where does it end? You know, it began so long ago and it slowly creeped up more and more that where do we say no? Where do we draw that line? How do we draw that line? And so for me, that's when I really started delving deep with ProAdvocate Group and saying, I probably drove Carla nuts a few times because I was this little 17-year-old at this point going, I need to know how you do what you do. I need to know how this works. Why does it work? Because it's something that everyone, I believe, needs. If we're going to have any hope, in my opinion, for this country, for us to go back to actually being truly free, this is a key crucial point. And being able to take our businesses, to take our health, to take our food and our families and say, this is what is best. This is what is best for me. This is what is best for us. And a part of that comes responsibility. I spoke at a Weston A. Price event, and my poor mother was horrified because when I got on stage, I said, you know what? You could get sick from farm foods. It's a possibility. I mean, I'm foolish if I sit here and tell you there's no way you could get sick. Sure, you could get sick from farm foods, but what are you going to do about that? At that point, what happens if you do get sick? You're going to go talk to your farmer. They're going to figure out what happened, and they're going to institute a change because you have a relationship with them. You have a relationship with your food. The same thing applies with healthcare. If something goes wrong, you have a relationship with that individual. You're going to go back and say, this isn't working for my body. Where if we're looking at standardized medical or food institutes, what are you going to do? You're going to go to Kroger's and say, this cucumber made me sick. Who grew it? What are they going to say? Well, number 5,000, whatever. How are you going to know that anything actually changed? You know, the doctors, the same thing. There was many people during the vaccine crisis that went in and said, this is hurting me. I'm getting sicker. I'm hurting in ways that I've never hurt before. And what were they told? It's the risks don't outweigh the benefits. The benefits outweigh the risks. They were not even afforded the decency of their concerns actually being considered. They were just told, too bad. It's not that big of a deal. That's not right. That's not what was America originally founded on. We were founded on not having tyrannical issues, right? We were tired of being told, too bad. You have to deal with it. This is what you get. No, we want the ability to choose and to be free. That's what our forefathers fought so hard for. And slowly over time, it's just, we're opening our hands and the sand is just slowly drifting away. You know, to me, it's a dishonor to not only our forefathers, but our troops. You know, they're out there fighting for our freedoms, and we're allowing political powers to take those freedoms right out from underneath of us. So what are they fighting for? You know, I strongly disagree with the idea of the benefits outweigh the risks. That's not for them to choose for you. That's for you to be able to choose for your own body, for your child's body. That's not something that anyone should be able to dictate to another individual. And so that's where I feel like so many times there is this lag, you know, I mean, you even see clearly on herbal products, you know, working with the herbal community. I see it all the time. You'll get a bottle of herbs that have worked wonders for many people, but it has this big disclaimer on it, says not FDA approved. Well, to the average person who doesn't understand the political climate, that's scary. You know, to them, that's the regulatory agency that's supposed to keep them safe. And so we've allowed this mindset shift. And that's where I feel PMAs are so crucial to bring that mindset back. Instead of it being an institution of, oh, this is a collaborative of doctors, you know, that they all have to abide by state regulation, and the insurance companies do get to dictate a lot of what care a patient gets. It goes back to, I want to try this. Will you help me as my healthcare provider? Will you help me? And that inside of a PMA, that professional can then say, I'm comfortable with doing that with you, or I'm not comfortable with doing that with you, but let me help you find someone that can. That's where we need to go back to having communities and networking, of having the true freedom to be able to choose. And that choice is afforded to us, I personally believe, best by a PMA. So the level of, so a lot of times a question that I get with PMAs is, does it make you above the law? What is allowed? What is not allowed? So having a PMA does not make you above the law, but the threshold is much, much higher. The threshold of what is illegal, if I may use that term, is much, much higher. Are you setting out to intentionally harm? Are you setting out to intentionally hurt someone? It's a substantive evil. That's what the threshold is. So if we know, no, I think we can freely say that none of us in these arenas, that's what we're setting out to do. That's a very easy thing to realize, that, oh, that's not something. I would never intentionally hurt someone. I would never intentionally give them something that is more evil than good. And that line is drawn out by the Constitution. Personally, so to give you a little bit of background about, because one question I get a lot of times is, what have you actually been through with your PMA? Because it's one thing to talk the talk, but have you actually walked it? Have you been through the fires with it? And I have. I've had the state come after me 3 times, and I had the USDA come after me once. All 4 times, they were never able to breach my PMA. Now, this has happened over the course of 10 years, but not once have they been able to even try to do a raid. I've never allowed them inside the premises, and the PMA has always stopped them from being able to get a warrant to get inside the premises. They've never been able to. So let's talk about a little bit about the different areas PMAs can be used, because I've kind of given you 2 major areas, foods and healthcare. So according to the Constitution, it can be used in any field of human interest. Because it's a first and 14th private membership association. It allows you to form a PMA, and a PMA is a legal business entity. So one quick thing I would like to debunk really quickly: there is a school of thought out there that says that PMAs are tax exempt. PMAs are not. A true legal business entity PMA is not tax exempt. There are some organizations out there that are trying to create them as a tax exempt. But according to the Title 26 in the IRS code, I'm actually reading it right here, I have it in front of me, under 7701 definitions, it falls under the tax code for an 1120. So for a PMA, for a legal business entity PMA, you do have to file taxes. You will be responsible for taxes. It's not a way to evade taxation. It's a way to obtain more freedoms. Unfortunately, I don't like to pay taxes any more than the next person, but this is the right way. This is the way that it has to be done to be afforded the protections that the PMA will give you, and allowing you to handle your clientele, your members, your patients as you see fit, as they see fit, allowing them to have that true choice. So another area that I'd like to touch on is what happens, like in an investigation. What happens? So in the public arena, what happens when you get an investigation is you usually get a letter of notice, and then they show up, or sometimes it's vice versa. They'll show up and then you get the letter. At that point, then you have a couple of different choices. You have to hire an attorney in most cases, or you try to go at it on your own accord. With a PMA, it's a very different set of rules with which if they want to actually open an investigation, they have to follow a very strict set of steps in order for them to do that. That's actually something that I love about ProAdvocate Group. I'm not saying this just as vice president, but because I've been through that fire. I've been through that fire 4 times. One of the things that we give our clientele, our members, is it's a pre-done letter that because in today's climate, it's no longer if they come, it's when they come. Unfortunately, our world has deteriorated to that point. So one of the things we provide all of our clients with is a letter that they can sign and date and hand to an investigator when they show up. That gives them clearly the steps that they have to follow in order to, take a look, to start an opening of an investigation. And one of those things, a very, very big difference, is there cannot be suspicion of wrongdoing. It has to be found wrongdoing. So instead of it being, oh, so and so down the road thinks that maybe this operator of a PMA, this person who's doing chiropractics, hurt them. Well, it can't be a think. It's got to be they clearly set out to hurt that individual that morning. They clearly woke up and said, I'm going to hurt that person. It cannot be a suspicion of evidence. It has to be fact-based evidence. It can't be a, let's go check, because I've had this happen to me. One of the 4 times that they decided to come out, it was a, let's go see how her stuff tests out. No, you can't do that. You can't just decide one morning that you're going to come and check my food. That's not how this works. And unfortunately, I've had that happen. One of the things that I like to discuss with the people that are interested in PMAs is, don't think that they aren't willing to scare you. They are. One of the instances I always like to discuss with my people, and when I say my people, it's because when you come into these circles, you guys are my people. You're all looking in the freedom mindset. You're my people. You're the people that I want to have community with. I want to be a part of your network. I want us to join hands and share information, share knowledge, and lift one another up so that we can create a better world. Not just for me, but I have a 4-year-old. I don't want her to wake up one day and not even have a clue what freedom smells like, because I wasn't diligent. I wasn't watchful. And I thought, oh, well, that's not so bad. No, it is that bad. It is that bad when they take your freedom, because they don't just stop with one thing. It keeps moving forward. It's a snowball. Once they get you used to one thing, they add another thing. And so that's where, for me, these things are so critical. These communities that we're building, my people, are so critical because of the fact that I know that we are all looking for the same thing. We're looking for a better tomorrow for the next generation, not just ours, but for going forward and making sure that they are free too. It's not a short-sighted thing. This is a long term. This is not a 5-year goal plan. This is generational legacy stuff that I'm talking about. When I created my health clinic and did it under a PMA, I did it under a PMA because I want to be able to teach my daughter the things that I know in helping to heal people. And one day when she, God willing, she wakes up and says, I really feel called to help people. Instead of having to say, okay, well, now you have to go to college, I'm not bashing the people that have gone to college, but I am saying used to, it was not the doctor went to college. It was, okay, so-and-so has a gift in healing. They trained in the next one, right? Instead of saying one day to her, oh, now you have to go do 4 years in college or 6 years in college, depending on what you want to do, I can say, no, I have trained you. The people are comfortable with your work. It's their choice if they want to use you to help them in their healing. It is not anyone else's choice to decide for you if that person has a plaque on their wall and are qualified enough to help you. If that person doesn't have a qualification 1, but is working, it's working for you. If you're deathly ill, I can almost guarantee you're not going to care if they have a paper on the wall that says they can do what they're doing. If it's working, that's what matters. That's true choice. That's the ability to actually say, this is what is right for my body, not someone else saying, they don't have the qualifications. No, I believe God gives us gifts. God gives people gifts of education, right? There are some astounding teachers out there that are just incredible in the way that they can convey information and teach others. They're incredible healers that have never done a day of normal college work to be a healer. There are some that have. I don't believe the gift is discriminatory of you've been to college or not. I believe God gives us individuals gifts. And so that is my hope. My goal with the PMA is to enable those who have those giftings to be able to step forward instead of having to hide in the shadows and quote unquote fly under the radar. I want them to be able to step forward and say, here's my gift. If you would like to use it, I will happily share it. If you don't want to, that's your choice. That's what true freedom looks like. And the ability to be able to make those choices But a part of that freedom is I want to make sure, and for me, I have found ProAdvocate works beautifully for this, is I want to make sure when those people step forward that they don't get their hands slapped. They don't get shoved back into the corner and unable to do what God gave them the gift for them to do. They need to be able to operate without fear. When I took my herbal classes, I had an entire class session, and it was a multiple sectioned class. Okay. It was not just one single class. This was a multiple layer exam, basically, that I had to do on all the words I was not allowed to say as an herbalist. I cannot treat you. I cannot subscribe. I cannot do all of these things. I had to take an entire course. Instead of being able to focus on the courses that heal people, I had to take an entire course on all the words I was not allowed to say as an herbalist. I cannot diagnose. I cannot treat. I cannot. Why? Why can't we just focus on healing the body, being able to help one another? Why do I have to take an entire course on, oh, I can say this, but I can't say that? Or wink, wink, if you want to do this, why do we have to be so on the verge of lying to be able to help people? It's not right. And so that's where, for me, it was a no-brainer because I had already been through everything with my food buying club PMA. I instantly went for a PMA for my clinic because I said, if you guys want to mess around the bush and, oh, I can't say that word, but no, that's fine. If you guys want to do that, that's your choice. For me, I want to be able to speak freely. I want to be able to tell my clientele what I think instead of sitting there thinking, man, this would really help them, but I can't say that. I can't advise this. I didn't want to have to do that. I want to be able to be honest with my people that have come and sought my help. And so with that, it has been shocking to me because there's been many times Carla is an incredible, I mean, the way that woman's mind works with the law is incredible. I'm more of your practical application individual, like I can tell you, okay, here's how you can get this to fit. This is how this works. This is how it worked for me. The woman is a whiz when it comes to understanding the law and the meaning of the law. I've pulled on her shirt sleeve going, hey, you've got to teach this to me because I need to understand this. You've got to impart this wisdom. And so with that, I have been shocked at how many times, because you can't expect the government to give you a gold star when you win against them. They're just not going to. Many times the cases that we win for PMAs are done at the administrative level. And so once those cases are closed, we like to think our records are public. They're not. Administrative level cases, once they're closed, they're gone. They are not open for the public. And it's amazing to me how many times, we have people ask us all the time, can I see your cases? Where can I find the public records? You can't. Because we've been through this so many times. They won't let us out of the administrative court because they don't want those documents to become public. They don't want to give us a gold star for the work we're doing. And it's been shocking. We actually got one at the beginning of this year where we actually had a letter from one of the departments to one of our clients that they stated they did not have jurisdiction over the issue. That's incredibly rare. For the government to give you a gold star for winning against them is just, it's mind-blowing when it happens. And I told the guy, I was like, frame that thing and put it on the wall because that's more important than your degree papers. That's incredible that they're actually saying, yeah, you can do this. We can't stop you. We don't have jurisdiction over this. And it was a healthcare issue. The issue that they gave him the documents saying that they didn't have jurisdiction was healthcare related. And so it's been amazing to me. We've gotten several of those over the years, and they're incredibly rare. It's very, very rare that they will admit when they're wrong. So we hold on to those very, very dearly when we get them, because they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful to be able to say, look, because so many times our cases, like I said, they are administrative. So once they're sealed, they're done. You can't get them back out. So those letters to us are like gold, being able to show people and say, look, it's working. This isn't just a fairy tale. This isn't something that we're hoping if we say the sky is purple long enough that people will believe the sky is purple. No, this is real. This is something that actually works. People are thriving. You know, you can have the best office, you can have the best modalities, you can have the best information, but at the end of the day, if you don't have the best protection, you're dead in the water. Because it takes the wrong organization, the wrong board, the wrong person finding out about you healing people because they don't want people healed. They want lifelong customers. They want people that are just going to keep coming back, keep suckering up for the prescription. Please hand it to me. You know, not that any of those things are bad. You know, there are instances. I believe doctors were created for a reason. I believe the healthcare is created for a reason. It works for certain people. But there should be that freedom of choice of, it doesn't work for me. This isn't what I want. And so it's been so just enlightening working, and I'm so honored to now be vice president of ProAdvocate Group and being able to take a larger role and seeing and helping people to truly achieve these freedoms and seeing people actually healing instead of just coming back for more prescriptions. You know, seeing the doctors we have, and we have doctors that choose to keep their license. That's perfectly fine. They can do so. But seeing them be able to actually treat their patients instead of just making them lifelong customers because that's all the medical board will allow them to do, or the insurance companies will allow them to do, you know, that's rewarding right there. To see people actually healing. Yes. Uh-oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, if you just next couple of minutes, if you could wrap it up, we can go to Q&A.
Absolutely. I'm very passionate about this subject. So 20 minutes, when you said you have 20 minutes in you, I was like, I've got an hour. This is a subject that I feel is so vital. You know, and our food, you know, it's so amazing how when you pair these things all together, the thing I love to create with PMAs is when we join both our healthcare and our food together, because you can't have one without the other, right? And so that's where it's so important to me to protect the farmers, protect our practitioners, our doctors, to where they can truly heal people. So with that, like I said, I could go on forever. So I will go ahead and wrap up now, and take your questions.
Okay, thank you. I see Charlie has his hand up. Great presentation. And
Thank you.
we should all be passionate. I think we probably all are passionate about this. I have a few questions, but let's go to Charlie first.
Yes.
Sure. I wrote down some good questions, I hope, and I'm sure other folks have lots of questions. Why don't I share my screen first to look at your website, and maybe Carla, if you want to unmute, the two of you can kind of, if folks
Give us
want
an
to find you,
overview.
where do they go on your website?
Mhm.
You see it on the
Yes.
screen?
So there's a
Yep.
couple of different options. They can go to the contact us right at the corner, the right-hand corner. I always, like I said, my passion is community and networking. So I have no problem sharing my personal number with you guys. So if you want to take that down, tell me when you're ready and I will give it to you.
Well,
My number is also on there
well, don't
for them
bother
to
with that,
contact.
Morgan, your private number, but the contact us link will get to you.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
probably
Perfect.
safer.
You can go there, or I believe under Carla on the leadership page, doesn't it have my number there too?
Yes, it does.
I thought so. Okay.
Okay, well, your number's here. Okay, great.
Mhm.
There you are.
So you may call us anytime. I would
Super.
like to say one thing. Morgan gave an excellent presentation of what ProAdvocate Group PMA does, not only as a member, but now as vice president in the position to help other people. And one thing that she pointed out is it affects all industries and professions. They're all vulnerable. And so what we do is not only properly set up these PMAs, okay, but we provide the legal defense of any legal challenge. So we only have one one-time lifetime membership fee. So you're with us. We're with you through the beginning to the end.
Mhm.
One of the questions that always comes up is, have any of your PMAs that have been set up, have they been challenged? Well, the answer is yes. Okay. But the better question is, and what was the success rate?
Mhm.
And, or, what was this, what was the outcome? And so we've had true success. And like she was saying, that you don't get really, sometimes it's rare that you get a letter that says, the case is dismissed, or after thorough investigation, the case is closed. But they do go away. And so we take that as they agree with our position, because we ask them if they object.
Mhm.
So, and we don't hear back from them. But yeah, so thank you, Morgan. It's been wonderful.
Is there anything on your site that I should show while folks are looking at it to seek more information? I saw on your blog this article here about PMAs for medical practitioners, which especially is of interest in this Health Weekly show. And I see right there a few bullet points on why it's useful. Malpractice, regulators, privacy, control, those are all big words for the future of medicine.
Mhm.
How much, well, related to that, how much do the practitioners and staff require much training so they know how to speak to patients, clients, what to do if somebody comes in, like better, agency people or something, what they
Mhm.
cannot or can put out on communications or emails with their clientele?
Yeah, so that is something that we do go over very thoroughly. We give them a couple of documents when they, first start looking to join, about, these are what, you need to be careful of, because it is the private domain. You need to make sure you stay within the private domain. Another service that we do offer all of our members is that any ads that you're wanting to run to the public, anything you're wanting to disperse to the general public, run it by us first. Let us take a look at it just to make sure there's nothing in there that you're saying that could cross that public versus private line. But for the most part, to be honest, I know a lot of times it sounds scary that you're transferring into the public versus private, but it's really not that hard. It's not hard at all. The biggest thing that we try to drill into our clients, our members, is always have that membership contract signed, dated, and you have to have a membership fee, because in order for, according to U.S. constitutional contract law, there has to be some type of gratuity. For the contract to be a valid contract, there has to be some type of monetary exchange for that to be legalized. So that's where, I mean, it is something you have to realize. I guess it could be the con, if you will, of a PMA, is you have to have good documentation. You always have to keep those member files. You have to have good receipts showing where they paid that membership fee. For if some reason that we needed that, you need to have it on hand.
Well, technically, that's what medical practices certainly are burdened with, and they have to get that right. I mean, they're used to that, and I guess us in the healing area, and I see a few hands up. I have taken that legal course as well, so I understand. Yeah. Let me go. Dan Knopfsinger. Hey, Dan has his hand up. If we can jump over to him.
Not so much of a question, but just a comment. Sorry, my screen's not working on my monitor for some reason. But Carla, nice to see you.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm getting ready through Carla. I've been, I got, and I dove in on the, trying to get educated on the PMAs, because I was brought to the board 3 times in 3 different states for practicing outside the scope of practice. And I even went outside the country, and I came back and I learned about the PMAs, and I started researching it. And so I'm a little tepid about, jumping back in a little bit. So I had to do a lot of research on it, and they've been so good as far as being patient with me, helping me through it, answering any kind of questions all the way through this whole thing. And I really do appreciate that. And with that said, And just researching it, Yale did a good review on this. But I've asked a lot of lawyers, they don't know about it, of course. They don't even teach it in the schools, you know. Um, I even asked a judge, he asked judges about this, and they said, well, let me look that up a little bit. They don't know anything about it. It's because it's not even taught. I heard the bar, correct me if I'm wrong, Carla, isn't the bar itself a PMA?
American Bar Association, yes.
Yeah, that's
So,
even a PMA, and that's how they get protected and different
so
things. I think.
it's not so oddball. I mean, if you tell them, well, you as an attorney, do you get special privileges of being a member of the bar that a lay person would not get? Okay. And also, I'd like to point out too, is that those attorneys, they are only licensed in one state or maybe two or three. With a PMA like Dr. Dossinger, your PMA is recognized in all 50 states. So you have much more, authority in all those states than they would even have. And so that they're against that. They can't be, like, I guess they could be licensed in every state, but I mean, that would take a lot.
Well, they want to bring you back
So
into
our
that
members,
system. You know, they
right.
want to bring you back into that whole system and just get money out of you and just keep everything going and going and going, keeping you going through the course because that's how they make money. And it's just a way so that you don't have to get caught up in that whole process. And if it does it'll, like you said, it'll poke you a couple times, but you know, you're giving up a lot of freedoms and we don't even realize it nowadays, you know?
I
Just
mean,
your freedom of knowledge to share it. You know, how can that be illegal? I mean, that's ridiculous.
we'll work with
So,
attorneys and so forth, and they understand it, okay? But that's just not the way they run their practice. We only consider once you become a member of ProAdvocate, you're number one, okay? You're our member, and we're going to get the job done. We have your best interest in mind. That's what our focus is, not having to work with their type of system. Although and the PMAs are not set up to circumvent the law, it's to work within the law. It's just a different way of doing it than they
the
do.
other thing that I noticed too throughout the years is you're right. These transcripts, because I did I went online. I'm developing a private secret healing online community for members to get services at different locations, training, certifying, you know, practicing franchising, and also researching by using AI to capture all the data and to capture the outcomes. Because if you think about it, it is illegal if you use your license to do it for chronic diseases. So this is the only process that you can go ahead and try to prove or disprove any kind of cures outside pharmaceutical, because by definition, it's illegal to find an alternative cure for any chronic disease, especially cancer. So you have to, the only route that's going to protect you, this is from personal, and I haven't dove into the PMA and going to court for it, but I think it's the only avenue that we have.
Well, that's like Dan. I think a number of physicians I've heard of have gone out and gotten licensed as pastors, right, or religious leaders, so they could do their studies and present their work from a church standpoint and be safe or untouchable, apparently.
But that's different. And correct me if I'm wrong, Carla, Morgan. But you don't have to do, I don't believe, a religious thing for it. It's it's your private right to go into a negotiation or an agreement with another person without the government saying, no, we're going to jail you, fine you, or throw you in jail for it. You know, that's ridiculous. And so that's how you get, and I don't think that you need to claim, well, we're a church and that's how we're doing it. Yeah, I don't think that, I don't think
that is
So,
correct. And you don't have to be a hypocrite about what you do when you're working with private
yeah.
members only.
well,
Within a
one thing I'd
private
like to
membership
point out
association.
too, sorry, one thing I'd like to point out too is what I look at when I look at those things is what is the the average outcome of those circumstances. And I can tell you just from my role in ProAdvocate group, the amount of individuals that we have coming to us that are in huge legal problems because they were set up as a church and tried to go from that standpoint and it failed. So as ProAdvocate group, we don't just take people that don't have problems, that don't have current problems. We will take on those who have legal issues in the public domain and help them to navigate those. And we have a lot of clients that will come in that are trying to operate that church model, and it did not pan out well for them. So that's one thing I do try to strongly warn people about. Again, it's your choice. But a big thing out there right now is the 508s and the 501c3s. If you go back to the actual code surrounding those, they are clearly denotated as a public entity. A public entity is therefore subject to the public regulation agencies. So you can't just take something and try to mold it to fit what you're wanting and ignore the codes, then the laws surrounding that, and say that you're suddenly private just because you're, trying to use those models. And we have a lot of clientele that come in from that standpoint that they were told this will protect you, and it didn't. They tried to become pastors of food or pastors of health or ministers of wellness. And when the state actually came knocking, it works for a little while until the state actually comes knocking. And then once the state comes knocking, I'm sorry, but if you, look at it from a literal point. Okay, so you sit before a judge and you say, I'm a pastor of food. Do you think any judge is really going to take you serious in that moment? They're going to laugh you right out of the courtroom because the fact you don't actually have a legal leg to really stand on. A lot of those instances as well, they didn't actually go through anything to become qualified church officials, so then you have that added layer on top of it going, you don't even have any church official anything, and suddenly you're a church of whatever. Again, it comes down to do you work with inside the constitutional rights we were given when this nation was formed, which I believe they are afforded to us. I believe God gave us those rights, right? Or do you try to twist, because in my opinion, going back to the way the Constitution was originally laid out, the way it should be, and holding the powers that be to that, saying, no, this is your confines. These are what are afforded to me by being a citizen, by being a part of the United States. These are the constitutional laws that you have to uphold. You can't just suddenly invent a new law and infringe those rights. So it's either with that generational legacy view of, okay, sure, today I can create a church and become a pastor, and that's going to fix my problem here and now, but what does that do for the next generation? Does that fix
No.
their problem?
Yeah, no, I get it. And the private membership association model sounds much better anyway. It's not about public, it's about you and I. We can do an agreement. Let me go. We got Sharon's hand's been up for a while, so let's move on to her.
Well, hi, thank you. Thanks for your presentation. I'm a traditional naturopath, basically retired, but I was wondering, what is the cost for setting up a PMA? If you can.
Yes. So the cost for setting up a PMA, we only have two basic fee structures. So if it's either you're in legal issues currently or you're not in legal issues. If you are not in legal issues, it is $15,000 for a PMA, and that does cover for the rest of your business life. So that's anything that comes in and any legal challenges in the future. If you currently have problems in the public domain that we have to get you out of that and set up your PMA, providing the legal defense of the PMA going forward from there, that is $25,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a colleague that is also a traditional naturopath that has set up in Wisconsin. She's set up a like an Indian tribe. And so the people that she sees have to become a member of the tribe. Do you know anything about that? I haven't looked into it, but it's called the Turtle Tribe or something.
So the question there would be, does she actually have any DNA that does, relate her to any ethnic tribal backgrounds?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I was just wondering if you knew anything about setting up something like that.
I can't speak directly to those because I have not done a lot of research, but I have come across a few of them. The little, very, very small, again, I've not done the research, so I don't want to say, no, those don't work. But for me personally, I feel far more comfortable with the legalities surrounding the PMA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, like I said, I am basically retired, so and it's mainly because of all of this legal issues, especially since COVID came out, and I'm mostly doing research and just work with people in my community and do barter.
Well, Sharon,
Yes.
I tell people that we get people out of retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
I mean, like,
possibility.
right, because with the ever-changing rules and regulations, it's hard to keep up in the public. And the governmental agencies and boards, they have a duty to protect the public. But if you have a properly set up PMA, I tell people, you take your gifts and your talents and your skills and your past education and experience, and you can set up a PMA and it gets you out of retirement if you choose so.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's making it a little bit more attractive to hear more about this. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Charlie, your hand up?
Yeah, so couple of comments. One of our regulars, Dr. Montalvo, has spoken about ministry as a way to get health freedom. I'll put this in chat. So while some ministries, I'm sure, fall afoul of the law, it's still out there, so it must work in some cases. So we like to keep an open mind on the show. Also, Morgan, to your point about finding your community, tomorrow's weekly show, the Thursday Freedom Hub show, actually, by coincidence, somewhat extends from today's show. We have a entrepreneur, also from Rogue Food Conference, Carl Wilson, on his Grow Fetch app. He had a booth as well, which is meant to help you find your local village farmers market and local farmers for better food. And I'm sure some of those people would consider a PMA to help their process. Also, you mentioned language and your dad telling you that whoever can capture the language will rule. We go through the same headache with the sharing that I sell professionally for those ready to upgrade from Obamacare, whose networks exclude the best doctors and hospitals you'd want for cancer or heart disease. And we have to use non-insurance lingo to avoid the scrutiny of the state health commissioners, like initial insurable amount instead of deductible, shareable expenses versus coverage. It's nonsense, but we don't live in a free world, do we? We live in a kleptocracy oligarchy. So I'll put this back in chat so folks can click this image here and learn how you too can upgrade from network choice limiting Obamacare and get into a sharing plan, which gives you complete choice worldwide. And Christina DeMores is on here, and she runs the medical tourism market, so she loves it, I'm sure. My question, though, is back to your comment about inspections from USDA and the state. Can you give some talking points to finalize this show on prevention and mitigation? So once folks pay that money for your protection, what are some talking points, things you say to prevent scrutiny from the state? And then once you succumb to their dogs of war, their goons, how do you mitigate the pain? Prevention and mitigation, because right, those are two services you probably offer.
And before you get to that, let me add to Charlie's question. When Dan Wheeler was on, I think, talking about this, the banker, suggested that a national PMA organization would be recommended because a lot of times If the government wants to go after you as, let's say, a sole practitioner, you know, they've got the resources to like outgun you, if you will. But if there was a group like a PMA association, you know, all the practitioners could join that, whatever it is, they would be less inclined to go after any of those members because they knew that there's a group supporting them. It kind of sounds like ProAdvocate is doing that. And I don't know how much you're marketing yourselves or making people aware of that, but along the same lines Charlie's talking about, um, is that kind of how you approach people? We have kind of a group. There's numbers in our package here. So if you know making it hard for the state to mitigate or and so on. Anyway, you got the idea. What's your response?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's actually something we've been talking about a lot. Carla, I'm sure you're listening on that part, is how to create more community within the community that we've already started. You know, because the fact that a lot of times, you know, there is, because it is the private domain, you know, we have to be very careful of sharing people's information. You know, like I can't tell you who's the member and who's not a member because the fact that's a privacy issue, right? And so that's something that we have been talking about is how do we allow people to be more in a network and communicating and, you know, in a community within what we're doing, you know, creating, um, you know, because the fact like for me, you know, when I started my business, I called my connections, you know, to find out who can help me. You know, so a lot of times we do have that. Right now, we're kind of the middle person. So a lot of times we'll have people call in and say, hey, I need help with this. Do you know anybody? And we'll say, hey, let me reach out to a member and we'll get back to you. And a lot of times people are very willing to share. But we're trying to figure out, we don't have the answer on that one just yet on a way that we can help create more community without infringing privacy as well. As far as negating, to your question, Charles, on how to negate the scrutiny. For our clients, usually we say, you know, just use common sense. Be careful what you say. You know, if you're going to make outrageous claims, make sure you say for members only. You know, we're a private membership association. Making sure that you clearly denotate the fact that you are in the private domain, that you're a PMA. For me personally, I have a little bit of a different standpoint. I guess, you know, when it comes to our members, you know, I like to allow them to operate within their comfort zones, right? But for me, my comfort zone is a little bit more of a bulldog approach. You know, not the in your face, be disrespectful, but I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to hide because I'm not changing anything if I'm hiding from them. You know, so I'm not going to, you know, be like in their face and say, hey, I'm here, but yet I'm not going to hide behind the bush either. You know, I had a incident. My mother was my poor mother. I've probably given her way more gray hair than she needs. But I had a conversation. I was present at a trial that was going on, and I walked up to I was 15 at the time. I walked up to the lead state prosecutor and I asked her what she thought she was going to benefit because she was going after a salve maker. He was making salves. They were worked great for skin cancer, right? And I just asked her because I felt like it wasn't so much I wanted her to answer me, but I wanted her to think about it. You know, like what, at the end of the day, when you go to bed, what are you going to get out of this? Like, what is that going to, you know, in the grand scheme of the world, what is that going to do? You're taking a product off the market that was helping people. So I have a little bit more of a, maybe not, I don't hide maybe as much as I should. But as far as that goes, I have full confidence in the PMA protection. So it allows me to be a little bit more bold than what most people would probably be comfortable because I've already been through that fire, you know, 4 times. So, you know, I would say that really boils down to your comfort levels. Again, you know, I always try to say, make sure you're operating within, you know, the golden rule. Treat others as you would want to be treated. If I was on the other side of the fence and I was doing what they're doing to people, I would want somebody to say something to me. I would want somebody to say, what are you doing? Are you thinking this through? Like at the end of the day, what is the profitability of what you're doing? That's how I would want someone to treat me. So I always try to make sure that I am treating others with respect, but also being honest with them, being honest with that investigator and saying, why are you doing this? Why do you feel this is necessary? Do you actually have a connection to this? Has this harmed you? Or are you just being the gopher? Are you being told and controlled on an issue that you really don't have a standpoint? So I have maybe a little bit more of a comfortability in that stand, and what I'm willing to say. But I usually tell people, just be kind, be considerate, but yet hold your ground. Don't, a lot of times we tell our people, don't have that conversation with them. Provide everything, have them provide you in writing what they want. Because then it can come down to a he said, she said, and the state will always side with what the investigator is saying you said. As far as protection and creating that private, stark difference, right? We provide our clientele, once their PMA is fully established, it's fully legally set up. We provide them with door notices to hang on their offices, stating the legalities. This is a private membership association, members only, as well as we provide them with that letter to investigators to have on hand, should one show up. So does that kind of answer your question there, as far as those?
We equip
those
our
regards.
members for those type of instances that occur. Okay, so yeah.
Once again, just to close out, your website is?
It's
.org.
ProAdvocate.org, O-R-G.
Thank you. Are you on any social media or no?
You can go to our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/ProAdvocate group.
Got it. Thank you.
I like to encourage people just to call me. That's why I'm so terrible at remembering the website name, is because I'd far rather have a conversation with you and go over everything with you than to just refer you to the website. So that's where a lot of
Most of our, we were talking about community. Most of our members come, they are referrals from someone else, which is a good thing. But the thing is Morgan is really, she's been very good at, she has a lot of connections and so forth. So we're trying to, get the word out, that we're here. So we have, mostly referrals from our 50 years being in business, but then also she's been an integral part in reaching out to social media and different conferences where we can present what we do and let people know they have a choice in doing business.